Hi everybody, it's Erin, and I'm going to try something new on my channel, and it's something that's really popular with me and a lot of other color tuber people, and it's what I colored in blank month. So this is going to be the month of January 2019, and I colored a lot of things this month, so don't expect every video to be very long. I'm also going to include works in progress that I may or may not finish in the next month, because sometimes I just put it aside for various reasons. And so I don't want to get stuck into the whole, oh, you'll see this next month, because that's probably not going to be true. This video will probably be longer just because I'm going to explain a little bit about like my process. Usually what I do is I have several books working depending on if I can, handle working with the medium. I have physical disabilities as well as my breathing situation with cystic fibrosis. So what I can do is kind of dependent on, my pain issues and that kind of thing, as well as being able to breathe. Because while Copic markers are pretty much the lowest alcohol marker that I have ever found, and I've tested almost all of them on the market, they do still smell to somebody that's very sensitive to chemicals, so I cannot always work with them. And for quite a while there, I had to put them aside completely, and I got to the point where it's like, I have this beautiful collection and markers that I love, and I don't want to not be able to use them because of this stupid thing I was born with. So I basically said, you know what, forget it. I'm going to force it, and if I get a little dizzy or if I cough a little bit more while I'm coloring, then that's how it goes. But again, that means that I can't work with them all the time. So if I'm having a very bad lung day, then I will switch to something else. And one of the reasons that I got the Tombow dual brush markers, these guys here, one of the reasons that I got these was because they have a felt brush tip, which means that when my hands are shaking and, I am having a hard time holding things, the brush tip does not bend like the Clean Color Real brushes. I had to pass those on to my friend because I could no longer use them, because the tip would bend, and, I'm just not dexterous enough to use them. I can't write words by hand, that kind of thing. There's just, I have to admit that at 35, there are things that I cannot do anymore. So that's one of the things I had to admit. You just cannot use those anymore. No more real brushes. So yes, if I cannot use Copics, then I will either move to a marker if I can still hold a marker, and if I cannot, then I will move to something that just needs pencil work. Now sometimes something with Copics will have pencil work, or sometimes there are books that I only want to use with pencil. So that's why normally I have at least 3 books or works in progress that I really want to finish that month, but I haven't gotten to yet. And, I bounce back and forth depending on what I can do. And so that's why I have that process. That's why you will, end up seeing works in progress, or, things that either get completed or take a few months to complete, just because, I probably wasn't able to use that medium very much. I'm also going to try and mute out the coughing. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, again, cystic fibrosis, coughing happens. So yeah, let's get to the coloring. I actually did 3 pages from The Witcher this month, and one of the things is this is my absolute favorite book, but because I'm obsessed with The Witcher. But also I realized that if I want to complete this book, it's one of like about 10 that I want to complete the whole thing. If I want to complete this book, I have to do more than 1 page a month, which is what I had been doing since I got it in August. So that means that I have to, if I'm in the mood to color it, then I should. So the first one that I did was for coloring, I'm going to say her name is Coloring Maja. I don't quite know how to say her name. That's what happens when you only read people's names. But she had a color along for any beasts or anything. And so I figured that the ice giant from this page would work really well. And so I used mostly Copics on this. There was no background here, so I added in the icicles that are in this part of the game. He's actually in sort of a cave type thing that Geralt goes into to fight the ice giant. I tried to add the snow. I don't think the snow worked out as well as I wanted. And I also took away the glow of the, what do you call it? There's a campfire that the giant has in his cave, and I didn't want to depict that just because all the photos that I had him at a very like orangish glow from that campfire, and I really wanted to show off his cool blue skin because I thought it made it look interesting. So that's what I did with that page. And I'm going to do these in order of me finishing them. So this one was finished on the 5th. And so we will switch to the next one, which was this in Forest Girl 2. That's what that looks like. Where'd it go? It's right here. There we are. I finished this one, and this was all done with Albrecht Dürer and some paint for the snow. And my thinking on this one was about the California fires. It's, you know, I live in California. I live in Southern California in the mountains. So we didn't get it as bad as Northern California, but we do always get fires. And one of the things that it brought to mind, this, you know, image of this girl placing her hand on the hollow of a tree. Now the tree actually isn't burnt in the example photo, but what it brought to mind was the fires and the way that snow can kind of transform any forest or dead looking thing into this more alive kind of state. And I thought the contrast between the blackness of the trees and the whiteness of the snow would look really cool. And I think, at least in my estimation, I think it worked. So that's where that thinking came from, and that's why it's so very radically different from the image of, you know, just this girl exploring. Obviously it's fall or winter in this photo, but yeah. Okay, and then after that, I finished this one. I'm looking back at my Instagram because I post everything on Instagram when I finish it. I finished this one from Coloring for a Lazy Afternoon. Now I don't have the book here with me because I actually took... What I did was I scanned it because this book, the way it's constructed, is very, very thin pages and they're double-sided. And I wanted to use my Copics. The original artist actually uses, you know, he works in Copics as well as doing computer art. So I wanted to use my Copics and I didn't want to hurt the book. So I just scanned it. And when my printer died, my husband realized that that model wasn't for sale anymore, and the model that was around the same kind and still used the ink that we had on hand actually came with a scanner, so I thought, you know, that's handy. So yeah, this is all done in Copics. I wanted to do a different kind of mermaid, so her hair is purple and her tail is black, and she's a little bit sparkly. And, excuse me. I also used part of a class from Sandy Alnock for the water because I liked the fact that it had the, you know, the surface and then the water part of it. So I used her class for that, literally that. It shows you how to do the surface part and then the water and the part in between where there's bubbles and everything. So I mostly followed along with that. I'm one of those people that if I see somebody has done something, I can usually pick it apart and visually figure out, okay, that's how they did it. But I figured, you know, especially since her class was on sale during Black Friday, like, I might as well just go ahead and pay her for, you know, being able to see the whole thing and all of the things included in it. But yeah, I'm apparently gifted that way, and apparently not everybody can do that, but yeah. I pretty much had already figured out, you know, you color the dark down here and you color the lighter up there, and you, yeah. If you're interested, she has the class. So yeah, that's what I finished next. And then I did a little bit of mixed media, which I'm going to include in here just because not everything I do every month is going to be coloring. So if I don't include everything, then it'll be like, well, what did you even do? So I finished this. And this is a jelly printed journal thing that I made. I printed a bunch of pages of jelly printing, and then I kind of bound it, and then I go through and I'm like, oh, I want to work with this background, and I kind of work on it. There is not a video for this. I started doing a video for it, and then my camera just kind of went, I'm not going to record that for you. So, but yeah, I finished this, and I also did this one. So these are the two mixed media things that I did this month. or well, technically last month because it's February today. But you see the blank, this is how it starts with the jelly printing, and then I, you know, add stuff to it. So yeah, I did those two. And then I finished, this is the second page in this book that I finished, just because I wanted to work on something wintry. And honestly, I had a really hard time with this image. I used Copics, and I'm not a fan of how the skies blend on anything but Copic paper, so I had that issue. But I also had an issue of, even though it's snowing outside, it is currently snowing outside, and I'm trying to talk fast enough that our heater doesn't have to come back on. Yes, it does snow in Southern California. You just have to be high enough, and we're at 7,000 feet. But I had a hard time with this just because I couldn't get into the mood of snow. I save all of these pictures for, you know, wintry feel, and oh, it's cold outside, so let's do some cold things, and I couldn't get into it. And then I got so far into it, and I thought about making this video, and I'm like, you know what? I really just want to finish it instead of having another work in progress. So that's what I did. I actually finished it. And the thing that I really like about this page is I did these pom-poms all like scribbly and stuff, and I don't know if you guys have seen that yarn that's like, it's yarn feel, it's yarn like fabric or threads or whatever they use, but it also has sparkly threads through it. And I thought kind of that's what these things are made of, is that weird like crinkly stuff, as well as the yarn fabric cotton. I honestly don't know. I don't have anything to do with yarn normally. But that's what I thought of, and I hope I conveyed that at least. So yeah, that's what I did. So this was 11/19 when I finished it. Then we move on to another Witcher photo because I felt like it. And this one is super graphic, which is why it's fun. But I also had to go incredibly detailed because I'm insane that way. The original artist actually works for the video game company that makes the games. I'm not going to say it because it's Polish and it's not said the way Americans say it, so I'm not going to say it. But he does a very graphic style. I've done several of these, and I couldn't do it just in the sense of I wanted to add insane details. Like Yennefer's outfit has all of these little stitches and stuff on it. I even had to fudge it. That's a lot, and I still had to fudge it. Just like the runes on her gloves. I don't know the runes in that universe, but I had to fudge it because I couldn't not include them. So I made it as game accurate as I could with like gel pens and stuff. And then I also colored the, this is actually rubbed off, which is interesting. This star was shiny. My gel pens are strange. But yeah, I wanted to do a sort of rainbow background, and I ended up, after I finished this, seeing the original art for this page. It's actually cut off. It's much longer, and there's more characters in it. But, and Yen has another hand. She's holding cards too, but you can't see it. She's holding Gwent cards too. And they changed the one that Ciri's holding, and I don't know why. But yeah, the funny thing about this page was I actually ran out of the gold gel pen that I had because I've been coloring Gwent cards so much. Because I don't use gold gel pen because I don't like gold. And the other thing I discovered was I found a nice base color for their hair. His and Geralt and Ciri's hair are basically the same. So I found a nice base Copic color, and I think it's E40. I don't know. I know I wrote it down. I wrote somebody's hair down. Maybe I didn't write it down. I guess I didn't. I think it's E40. I'm gonna look it up. But yeah, I wrote down all their colors because if I'm going to color them multiple times, then that's all their colors. But yeah. So that's that one I did. And then we go to the kitty. And I try, when I am gifted a book, I try to prioritize that book. Unless there's some reason that I'm avoiding it. Like my girlfriend, she bought me the Firefly coloring book, and I love it. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the book and I'm grateful for the gift, but I'm avoiding it because until I did this Witcher book and a couple other ones, I was worried about A, using Copics in those books, and B, without it being Copic paper and it being a more realistic image than like the Greeting Farm, would I be able to color realistic faces. And clearly, since I've done it a bunch in The Witcher, and I have in another book as well, clearly I can do that. So I am going to prioritize that book. But books that are given to me, I do prioritize. And this one was given to me for Christmas by my parents. So I wanted to color an image in it. And this is one of those ones where I had to use my Tombow markers. Where is the mark? There. I had to use my Tombow markers because it is double-sided. And I honestly don't know why I picked this image, because I don't like it all that much, but I also knew that I needed one to A, test the markers, and B, to test if it was fast and if it was something that I could sort out. Like, there's a lot going on in these pages when you haven't sorted out what the colors are. So I wanted to test on something that I didn't absolutely love. Like, I love the cats in the library on the next page. I wanted to test it on, you know, a page that I was just kind of okay about. And so I think that's why I started this one. And I was going for a bright and happy kitchen, and I'm not sure that that worked out great. But that's what I was going for. I don't know why I made the vases black, except for I was covering over a lot of the detail that was added to the vases because I didn't want to color it. But also because it makes 3 points of black on the... Excuse me. I will try and edit out the coughing, I swear. And if I can't, I'm sorry. But I did use gel pen on this one. One of the reasons that I use gel pen is usually to shortcut something. And I'm not really a fan of sparkle, but I have found that using sparkle means that I don't have to add detail. So if I add a bunch of sparkle to something, that means I don't have to shade it and give it drop shadows and all of that stuff. And... you know, like everything else that I do. So I did just go with the, I went with the steam is sparkly. I went with the really sparkly scarf, so that way I didn't have to, you know, give it any shading. And I did sort of give it some drop shadows, but I'm compulsive about it. I can't help it. So yeah, this was one of those, I'm going to use markers and pencils on it. Or water-based markers, rather, because it won't go through. See, this page is fine. And, you know, just using markers as a base is faster. Like I said, since I do have physical disabilities, I can't sit and work with a pencil for very long. One of the reasons I don't do live colors is because I can't. I can't hold a pencil for, you know, I can't sit here and color for 5 minutes and then make you wait 15 on a live video for my hand to be okay enough for me to color again and just sit here and ramble doing absolutely nothing. I'm rambling enough in this video. So... I don't need to make it worse by making it a live video constantly. And then, while I was coloring that cat, I had a sudden inspiration to color one of the pages in here. Now, if you've actually played The Witcher 3, you'll know that one of the choices you can do is choose between two women. And one of them I'm absolutely in love with, and the other one I'm kind of okay about. I mean, I don't wish her harm, but I'm not a fan. And there's reasons for that, and technically, in the books, he's with this woman, Yennefer. And so, of course, in my video game, he's with Yennefer. And this book, or this image, did not have Yennefer in it. It had the other woman, Triss. And she's fine, whatever. So, but I didn't want to color her making love to Geralt in my book, because I love this book and I love them together. So I thought... is there a way, especially since she has black hair, for me to cover over the fact that this was originally Triss and make it into Yennefer? And the answer is yes, because I did it. Look, it's Yennefer. So, yeah, she's the same girl here. Right there, Yennefer. So, yeah. I'm very pleased that this worked out, that I completely changed her hair. And, of course, there's no other really distinguishing features when you're half kissing someone and he's the one that, you know, you could see more of his face. So it looks like it was always Yen in real life. And I made them sparkly because it may not have happened in the book, but I'm sure in the 20 years that they've been together, they at some time made love in a magical sparkly pool at night. So I made it very sparkly and very magical because she is a sorceress and he has magic too. So there you go. And I think that is all I actually finished. Yes, that's all I finished. So that's 7 pages that I actually finished. And this is the last one because, yeah, 128, or 129 rather. And then the other two that I just worked on was, this one is all pencils. Because I did test my markers in this paper and it doesn't work. And yes, I can photograph the, I can photograph it and reskin it or scan it and reprint it. But I thought I might just work on it in the book and might just use pencils. So this is all I got done. And that was on a day when that's all I could use was pencils. And I basically, you know, just straight colored. And it takes for freaking ever. And there's only so much I can do because my hands only work for so long. So yeah, that's all I got colored in that one. And then on this one, which I was working on yesterday, I thought of going through this one page at a time. I may or may not do that. I don't know. Excuse me, that's my medicine alarm. Take your meds. Anyway, with this one, I wanted to try something radical. And so what I first did was I started with Inktense, and I did the moon, and I did him, and I've gotten part of the ground. It's not all going to be green, but I've gotten part of the ground. And I wanted to do something radical in the sense of, I thought, what if this wasn't just a sun? What if it wasn't a sunset? What if it was a full solar eclipse? Or lunar eclipse. I think it's a solar eclipse. Yeah, total solar eclipse. I have reference photos. Always use reference photos, people. Real life happens. Even if you're coloring a magical fantasy thing, there's some aspect of real life and you can use a real photo. So yes, I Googled total solar eclipse, and that's what I'm going to try and do here. And you can sort of see the faint line that I've done here where it's going to be colored white. And then yesterday I colored this all dark, and there were some other pterodons flying around, but I had to cover them because they're just not going to show up. I'm going to add a little bit of fantasy and then cover or outline him in white. I found some instances where you can get white going on, but normally it wouldn't reflect like that. But I'm going to do it because it's my book. And for the background, I used the Tim Holtz brushes. And the reason that I got these, again, it's one of those physical disability things and accessibility, which is very important in crafting. I found that these are a lot easier to use, especially for somebody that's physically disabled, than the regular blending because they're a lot more forgiving. I can drop this on there and you can see that it's not going to make a mark. Now that's also because it doesn't have any ink on it right now. I put it away clean. But the fact that I can not have full control of the tool and still be able to use it without wrecking my page and getting one of those hard circle lines or square lines when we only had the square tool, that's really valuable for someone like me. So and the fact that I can have 7 brushes and use it for all 60, let's see, there's 64 of the regular Distress, and there's how many of the Distress Oxide? This is Distress Oxide. But it's a lot, okay? And the fact that I can just have 7 brushes and use all of those ink colors is really good as well. So that's a good option, especially if you are, you know, having issues for whatever reason with the regular mini blending tool. So yeah, that's my plan for that one. And then I may or may not be getting to this one soon or soonish. I'm thinking about just keeping it out on my desk. I have a little folder, a little like, there's a part where my desktop doesn't quite cover the Alex unit, drawer unit below it, so I can fit like a couple books in like this. So I'm thinking about not putting it away and just reaching to it occasionally. So you may see this finished soon, you may not. That's just how it goes. But this one I will definitely be finishing this month because I really want to see how this works out. So yeah, I'd look for it in the February completed pages. And that's about all. This is longer than I expected it to be. I don't think the other ones will be this long, but we'll see. I mean, people like long videos, so we'll just have to see. And anyway, thank you for watching. That's what I completed in January 2019, and I'll see you next month, hopefully. Bye.